revitalization of Nigeria's mainstay before the advent of crude oil.
Right. So it's quite interesting that we are looking at creating infrastructure towards the agricultural sector. You will recall that even now, the most employing sector in Nigeria economy is still agriculture, because you see, people, though it's agrarian in nature, it's not mechanized, but if you go to virtually every rural area, you see people engage in farming activities. But I was watching President Barau Tinubu, talking about 2,000 tractors, and I have a kind of challenge by how can we import 2,000 finished tractor. It's giving me a lot of concern, because if not as much as you are bringing in tractor, you must also empower Nigerians through the tractor that you are bringing. You must also give Nigerians some technical know-how about tractor. What if you, because of 2,000 tractor, yes, and tell that company that no, you come and assemble the tractor.
Have an assembling plant in Nigeria.
You would have bring in one employment opportunity for people. You would have bring in technology know-how. You would have also create job, in different sectors, direct and indirect. So how can a country say import 2,000 tractor that would have taken them 3 months, or so to actually assemble it or perhaps give Innocent the assignment. You have a ready plant already. Can you actually assemble this in your that would have bring a lot of balance of trade, balance of payment, a lot of things down to not that you take everything down. And that's why we always bring the example of South Africa. They have brands of car they use, and you must come there to assemble. But in Nigeria we have over 38 brands of car in Nigeria, and none is being some of them, maybe 2 have been assembled, except Innocent and other products that are being made in Nigeria, and that's a problem. So we must look at the policy that will not only improve our agricultural sector, but also empower people in the agricultural sector. Because by only assembling, a lot of businessmen will now see reasons why they could key into that area. And as president is importing 2,000, remember, states are bringing in 500, 300, 700, 1,000. You could see what Nigeria state bring. But if you have bring all this together and manufacture it, and maybe assemble or manufacture a part of it in Nigeria and assemble others in Nigeria, that would have bring employment that we have been crying of. It would have increased our GDP. It would have also empowered people technically. So these are the things that we have to look at. But creating infrastructure, I think that's a good thing. Now, beyond infrastructure also, you have to also create markets. That's what we need to look at. Common feeder road is a problem in Nigeria. And when you are creating such things, you could go to Core North, Sokoto, Kebbi. You see that some of their products are still rotting. A intentional country like Ethiopia, they create what we call cargo port. I don't think we have one cargo port in Nigeria, whereby as they are producing that raw material that can be rotting, that cannot really stay, they are exporting it down, and that would have created a chain.
Value addition.
Down, people that are actually producing that item, farming that item will be different from people that are actually processing, different from people that get customers to come, and different from people that are exporting it. So you would have created that chain, because that's why you see Nigeria are not in farming. It's because of the value chain that has not been activated. Because people want to see that how the chain actually move and create enabling environment. And that's why you see Ethiopia, there are 2 businesses: airline and farming. Early in the morning, cargo aircraft move their produce down to US, Canada, and create a lot of employment for their people.
Now, I quite agree with you, especially in the value addition and the translation of crude methods to a mechanized method.
Right.
My challenge is particularly with the livestock economy. Now, we've had a Ministry of Livestock inaugurated. The activities and programs are, even for me in the media space, still quite ambiguous. The challenge now with this pledge is that there would be an expansion in the livestock economy. Now, mind you, particularly the issue of open ranching still exists with us. Open grazing. Ranching systems are being criticized by different state governments, although some governors are saying that they would provide for such lands. How long, in terms of a timeline, in the years this administration has on ground, to set the plans in motion? And do you think that there would be the political will to keep the plan going, even after successive governments come into place?
Right. This administration have had opportunity of creating employment compared to every administration. They came up with about 3 or 4 new ministry. Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. That's another area that we have not actually activated as expected. Ministry of Steel, you know, we have not had it single like that. Ministry of Livestock. We also have Ministry of Creative Art and Creative Economy. Now look at these 4 ministries. They have every opportunity to actually create unprecedented job opportunity for Nigeria. But it's become rhetoric. We've not actually see, you know, and this is 2 years down the line. We've not actually see, you know, creation of those opportunities. Even with the creation of new coastal road, that we are thinking that marine, you know, economy would have tapped into and started activating the opportunity. Then let's come about the livestock that you talked about. Let me take you back to Botswana. Botswana is a very small country that I'm not sure is even up to Abuja. Do you know the level of livestock they created? I mean, they produce cannot be compared the entire one that we produce in Nigeria, simply because of ranching, you know. And if you see their cow, very healthy, you know, because once you create that ranch opportunity, there will be education opportunity for children of those people that are engaged in you know, such a trade, because you know it will be within, there will be ready food in that environment, there will be clean, there will be hospital. I think that's the way to go, and that would have caused a lot of problem that we're having, and some people has had that farmers crisis, you know, insurgency, to have reduced that. So I don't know what we are doing up to now for that, and I think every state government needs to be also challenged, because I saw Borno creating something like that. Federal government cannot do this thing only them. It's not possible. You can only create the infrastructure and enabling environment, but you can engage states. Each state should create a ranch whereby all the people that are engaged in livestock, you know, can actually go to that side and actually activate. You have created an enabling environment that would have solved the problem, and it will increase the production of livestock in Nigeria.
Now, the president also declared a state of emergency on food security, just in the, what I call it, the formative days of his administration when he came into office. There's yet to be any follow-up on what that declaration is. Has it been called off? Has there been a progression in terms of the current administration's programs and activities towards tackling our food security challenge?
Right. See, when he declared, especially I think July 23rd, 2023 or so, when he declared that state of emergency, some of us said this president is not ready, because if you are declaring state of emergency on food security and you're saying that you are going to cultivate so land in each state, it's not just possible like that, because you have to engage those states. You know, land actually domicile in states, and you have to engage them for them to give you a portion or identify a place that they want to use. And up to now, they've not finished in that area, right? Then beyond that as well, we expect 2 things to happen: to be all-round season farming, you know, whereby there will be all-round season, there won't be rainy season and dry season. If everything would be all-round, that would have created much more opportunity, because there will be availability of grains, rice, and all farm happen, because there is all-round season. That has not been actually activated. Then on the issue of you know, the major problem of Nigerian food security, because if you look at Nigerian inflation as well, the major cause of that inflation is food. You know, food cost. Then what is bringing about food cost? Does it mean people are still not farming? People are still farming no matter how small it is. But we have problem of supply chain. The cost of buying grain in Kebbi is not as expensive as the cost of transporting the grain down to Abuja or down to Lagos, because of the energy crisis, energy cost. You know, people forgot that energy security is national security. You must create that so as to have a better, you know, stand in terms of farming. So if we cannot solve the problem of energy, fuel problem, fuel crisis, you know, transport problem, because majority of these farmers are spending more to transport their items. So, and government must do something, and government actually bring about CNG. How far is the CNG now? For me, I actually have a CNG converted vehicle, but the fact is that I hardly go to it, because you expend about 4 or 5 hours to get, you know, to refill the fuel, the CNG, you know, tank, and that's a problem. And you call that, it's not like fuel that you can buy a whole lot that can take you for 2 days. This one, even if it's a commercial vehicle, within 2 hours, 3 hours, it is burnt. If it's the private person, 1 day, 2 days, it's gone. So until government go back to that problem itself and solve it outrightly, if you say you want to provide CNG, let's be in abundance, so that it will help people that are transporting farm produce to actually bring it and be able to sell it at a relatable price that will not be too. So if you look at it very well, and you cannot still move away from issue of security. You know, people cannot go to farm like before. So these are the things that we must look at. And so if government is declaring state of emergency in food security, and these things that aforementioned are not tackled, we are not ready.
Now, the other day there was a statement saying that the Office of the National Security Advisor would chair an interministerial panel involving the 36 states across the federation in terms of what it said would remove the checkpoints and roadblocks with the levies that are taxed on the transportation of food items to allow for free flow across the country. I don't know how you would assess this charge given on the interministerial panel, noting that even the World Bank funding that's supposed to assist Nigeria in areas of food security has been delayed.
Right. On Saturday, Sunday, I was on the road. I have to crisscross Lagos, Ibadan, Oshogbo, Lokoja along the road. And I can tell you what happened. As a supply chain person, I also see difficulties for people that are transporting goods and goods, especially, because we still see some security men on the road collecting
taxes from
what
those
they're not
persons.
supposed to collect. I'm telling you, and it's affecting. In fact, they even focus on those people that carry, goods.
More like food grains.
Exactly. They are on them. Even a commercial vehicle have to drop at a particular place that you get to see them, and that's a serious issue. And I must tell you, they are only running away from the truth. They knew this thing still continues. It's very easy. Get a ministry shopper. Go. Even yourself, get some of your leaders, some of the senior officers to go along the road. They will experience the same thing. So I think it's much more of rhetoric. We are not ready to solve that problem.
Well, big questions on Nigeria's commitments towards optimizing its food security in terms of the pledge of President Tinubu to expand the livestock economy. Dr. Aliyu Ilias says there are different examples to borrow from across Africa in terms of what is obtainable in Ethiopia and Botswana of how they have mechanized and improved value addition across the supply chain, particularly in the agri sectors. He says that the political will in Nigeria is still lacking and muchly questionable. Well, in keeping with other conversations this morning, we move away from matters of the economy. We've talked about the 2024 budget rollover that has sparked concerns over Nigeria's fiscal policy crisis. We've also touched on the agri investments of President Tinubu with over 2,000 tractors commissioned and investments across states in Nigeria. Now, we come to more politically inclined stories this morning as we review them. We'll start with the People's Democratic Party, PDP. PDP and INEC had a closed-door meeting over disputes involving the party's national scribe position, in which the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, urged PDP to resolve their internal crisis and adhere to the Supreme Court judgment that confirms Senator Samuel Anyamu as the national scribe. Now, quite interestingly, I was following that conversation yesterday. The former Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, was present, and the acting party national chairman Damagum as well. It was a big question. One of the newspapers even led with that question. He asked PDP, who is your national secretary? And it almost seems as though there was dead silence in the room for a while. Why do you think that the party is still, despite a Supreme Court judgment, failing to resolve the national secretary position?
Right. So it's so sad that we have, beyond the Senator Bukola Saraki and others, we still have present governors. I could see like 5 of them in that room. I saw Dauda, I saw a couple of them. Jay Makinde, all of them in that room, and they are asking. And the question was quite instructive from Mahmood, that who is the Professor Mahmood, who is your national secretary? And he read out 4 times. There have been inconsistency in their, communication with INEC. So I think this does not even. I recall that even Governor Kefas of Taraba has actually personally asked, his led committee has asked INEC. INEC told them that you should present your, national secretary. And going forward now, it's just what they can answer by themselves. And it's clear to them that it's much more of Anyam. So why not, since you know that there is a convention coming up, is in November also, why not, accept Anyam as your secretary, then you move.
Now, Doctor, even before that convention, they were planning for the 100 NEC meeting, which was also predicated on a notice that needed to be signed by the national secretary, which INEC rejected. Hence the meeting. Even before that convention, the much focus now in the interim is this 100 NEC meeting. Do you think that the party, especially those you've mentioned who seem to be on high horses, would accept Senator Anyamu owing to his ties with the FCT minister?
They do not have choice, because he was rightfully, elected, into the office. It does not matter who or which the camp he belongs to. It's just the party to survive, because in the long run it's going to be eased out, and you get people. So I think they should use this strength to go and be getting themselves ready for that November, because if you don't allow him presently now to actually take over, it's going to also create another,
because that will serve as a conclusion of his tenure.
Exactly. It also brings another lacuna, another opportunity for him to also go to court and said they did not allow him to actually serve his term. So for me, I think the people, the board of trustees need to do more, to make sure that they call them to action and say, okay, this is how it is now. We are in our trying time. Let us at least manage this trying time and find a way to actually solve, because time is ticking also for them. Because for you to come stronger in 2027 election, you must have, maybe continue to settle your problems, because if you fail to settle it now, it's going to wait for you, and you have to deal with it before you can actually have a good person to present for presidential election.
Now, if you would recall, on Democracy Day, President Tinubu, in his joint address to the National Assembly, said that he was elated that these opposition parties are having their issues and they should not expect him to help them fix those issues.
Correct.
Now, away from the PDP, the Social Democratic Party, SDP, has also suffered yet another major crisis.
Right.
They've moved to suspend their national chairman, their youth leader, and a number of other top officials within the party structure.
Right.
In your opinion, what is happening? Some of them are alleging that there is an alleged sponsorship by the APC in terms of their internal crisis.
It's obvious that this strategy of APC is to destabilize virtually every other political party, which is it's not bad, because like President actually said, his joy is to see them being unstable. But they should also prove themselves further and said, yes, we are there. Because you recall that President Tinubu actually have a lot of influence on XDP, and even the chairman actually said it, that he opined to actually come to contest under SDP if APC deny him that opportunity. So maybe perhaps they are suspecting the chairman that is maybe having a romance with APC, which is quite clear. Every political party leader that are opposition have opportunity of also relating to the present political party for one benefit or the other. So the fact remains that they have to be focused, and if they ease him out, if they suspect him, if they have their evidence, it's cool. But it's saddening that all the political parties that are actually at the limelight are actually having issue. NPP is having their own issue. PDP is having their own share of problems. SDP is also having their problem, because SDP seem to get more opportunity of defection. Do you recall most people that defect? SDP get more defection than any other political
Talking about
party.
those defections,
right?
They got the ex-Kaduna governor,
right?
Nasir El-Rufai.
A lot of people.
Now this morning, the presidency is taunting the ex-governor Nasir El-Rufai, calling him part of the internally displaced politicians looking for shelter in the SDP. The SDP national chairman Gabam is also insistent that despite this news of his suspension, that he remains party chairman.
Right. I think to remove the SDP chairman, you have to follow the process too, because you don't just get Jankara opportunity to actually displace him. They have to go through the right process. There should be petition, there should be committee that will review what he has done and whatever. Then in terms of Verify, I think the likes of Verify are supposed to be an internal enemy that must be managed. But APC allow him to actually move out. So you don't blame him when he actually saying his own. And he has rights to be in any political party. Perhaps it's a joy of Nigerians that we see somebody who can actually challenge the present political, government. Simply because, when you have a government that doesn't have critics, I don't say criticism, critics. People are not bringing a critique, doing a critique.
Positively, constructively.
Constructive critiques. Positive, it could be negative, but it's a critique. It will not charge them to perform better. So by the time somebody is bringing your weakness and saying it to you, President also said it in Benue. He said, I listen to every people that condemns me, and I take the advantage of what they said. I implement it because I'm the president. So if they bring any suggestion, I take it and I implement. And it's a good conversation from him there, that even though you are condemning him, bring a positive alternative, and I will collect that alternative
and use it for the betterment of Nigerian people.
Which is a good game for in politics. So for me, I think they should allow opposition to breathe. That's my own.
Well, doctors of the opinion that the opposition should be allowed to breathe. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, still in its registered political parties has 18. This is despite news of a certain ADA party looking to get its registration. In INEC's words, it has failed to meet certain registration criteria.
Have they said that clearly?
It's on the front pages this morning. now the challenge is with the persons who are purportedly regional leaders of the newly to be formed and registered ADD, the likes of Peter Obi, Alhaji Atiku, Amechi, and whatnot. This certain criteria registration hurdles. Well, do you think that between now and 2027, the position of INEC on the registered parties who will be going into 2027 needs to be made clear for Nigerians to understand?
All right. So I got to know that there are hundreds of political parties on the waiting list. Hundreds. And they are saying that those ones have actually not met the
registration criteria.
And I'm beginning to have issues. What is that criteria that is too much for people to actually meet? And I'm sure this new ADA, they are much more experienced. They've been in power. They have the network. They have the political will. They have whatever you think they need to do. So I think I will take it back to them. They should do the needful and show the Nigerians the needful. So we now see that INEC possibly becoming trying to against them to register. So it will be much more clear to them. So they should also do their own part and open it up, because the process is clear in the constitution on what they should beat up before they can be registered.
Registered as a political party.
Right.
Now, away from that issue, it's also in terms of the freedom of association and expression as constitutionally enshrined in our 1999 constitution. Well, Professor Utomi has come under much scrutiny. This is following a suit filed by the Department of State Services, DSS. Now, Professor Utomi made headline this morning asking that the court dismisses the suits for lacking competence. He's also said that the suit constitutes an abuse of the freedom to express oneself and associate in what has been termed his shadow government. Now, Doctor, you had followed Professor Utomi in his time in government, and now with this purported shadow government, he's been banding around, and the case the DSS has dragged him to court for. How do you suggest that this issue be resolved?
Right. Sometimes you look at our security agency to be actually supporting the government, especially when
the government in power.
Yeah, government in power. Because I recall that same statement was actually made by APC when NNPP emerged governor in Kano. So, and there was no any form of arrest. There's no form of taking people to court. There's no form of maybe condemnation, even from the APC or the DSS themselves. So I think there should be freedom of association, freedom of information to an extent. What is actually saying is just for him to actually, while I expect DSS to call Professor Utomi to clearly state what he meant by shadow government. It's simple as that. Not that you now take it as a case that it should, be prosecuted in court. I don't know what law will back our DSS to actually prosecute him for actually saying that. It's not a bad thing for him to say, okay, we want to create a kind of system that will look at each workings of that offices and actually bring up alternative. I don't think it's a bad thing.
I'm not talking about the credentials of Professor Utomi himself.
Right.
He is a political economist, right, and a management expert. He also in 2007 was the presidential candidate of the ADC.
Right.
Now, talking about a credential of such an individual to constitute what is known as a shadow government, beyond the allegations that it's being treasonable, do you think that it would in one way prefer those alternative solutions to a government of the day other than look to oppose it, like you were saying earlier?
Right. So for me, it's a two-way thing. If government wants his service, they should engage him, because he was there when they are engaging all the people. Perhaps I think it was also in APC at a particular time. So if they need his service, they should engage him. So he's free to actually go ahead and actually profile his own solution in its own manner. Until he said he wants to topple the government, he wants to create alternative government. It's a shadow government. So I think that is clear, for them to know that he only wants to, do a kind of simulation, to actually provide solution to the Nigerian challenges.
Now, moving on to item number 5 on our lineup this morning, talking about the FCCPC. It has also looked to crack down on what it has called unfair practices against consumers in Nigeria. Now, this morning, news circulating across media outlets is that the FCCPC is looking to take the MultiChoice CEO to court over what it has said is an obstruction of an ongoing investigation. Now, for subscribers using the DSTV and GoTV platforms, they had complained about certain abrupt increases in their tariffs.
Right.
Now, it's also from the angle of caution, because I saw a statement from a legal bigwig saying that the FCCPC needs to also be cautious of overstepping its provisional mandates to check this unfair practices. How do we balance this conversation?
I recall our organization, Save the Consumer, actually embarked on condemning the activities of MultiChoice, because it's clear that they're actually shortchanging Nigeria in terms of service delivery, because what is obtainable in other places where they operate. And Nigeria is about 70% of their subscribers globally. You know, when you say Nigeria is contributing about 70%, do you know what that means? Their main subscriber are in it, but they are denying us a lot of things in terms of service delivery, in terms of pay as you go, in terms of additional opportunities. They actually, in fact, in terms of level of CSR that they actually are doing now. FCCPC over time has cautioned them and invite them. They did not honor FCCPC. You know, FCCPC will caution them that don't increase tariff at a particular time. You have to, you know, discuss with the consumers and discuss with us why you want to increase, because you said you actually reduce the cost of bouquet in South Africa and you are increasing the cost of bouquet in Nigeria, and you are citing economic hardship in South Africa, and Nigeria economic hardship is much more,
our inflation rate is higher than
higher compared to that. So what is justification? So when you are increasing such tariff, what is the basis? There is no basis for you to actually increase tariff at all. And these are the questions that the FCC is asking them, and they are trying to obstruct FCCPC from doing their job. It's not only that, they have also disregard virtually all the, you know, regulations that we have in Nigeria against them. And are they special? Are they not operating under Nigerian constitution? So if you are operating under Nigerian constitution, Nigeria should be able, and we are being led by FCCPC to question you on what you are doing. I think they should go and answer the needful question, not obstructing the FCCPC. Now,
Qatar Airways is also part of those that is facing an FCCPC crackdown.
Right. If that's their assignment, that once there is a consumer abuse, once they see a sign of that, or when there is a complaint from Nigerians that this is what is actually going on, they have the right to summon you, but not that you will not now respond to them. So I think they should prosecute the two of them if they are not
failing to respond.
Yes, you have to respond and come and give your own part of the explanation.
Well, in terms of keeping with the law, it also takes us to our next conversation as it concerns activities of the Nigerian police. The IG was questioned by President Bola Tinubu during his condolence visit to Benue as to why no arrests had been made in the sad killings that rocked the Yelwata community in Guma local government area of Benue State. This morning, news is that the police has arrested a total of 28 suspects in relation to the killings in Benue, and another 20 in relation to killings in Plateau State. A total of 48 suspects are being investigated, with reports that upon the conclusion of investigations, those suspects will be paraded. Now, Doctor, in keeping with these said arrests and the investigations that are ongoing, my question is, hope these are genuine arrests, not because there's been pressure by the president to find the culprits now.
Well, this actually exposed the security agencies that they're not doing what they're supposed to do until they have a push from the president, which is sad. So the president also should also see that if he does not push them, they will not react. They've been the killing has occurred 2-3 days before president actually went there to visit. What have they been doing? Doesn't mean they have not been doing anything. So to actually arrest or trace people, and that's why we said sometimes when things concern the downtrodden, you know, they seem to be like a bicycle, but when it concerns the big wigs, you see that they will go all out. So until the president tell them before they now went all out. I won't agree that they actually arrest the right persons or they didn't arrest the right person. But the fact is that why the delay before they actually get to be so does it mean that they are reactive, they are not proactive? And that's why our argument is that there must be much more intelligence and commitment on their part, as it were. So if there is much more commitment, and you know, president wouldn't have been the one that said, IG, I've not seen any. I know that day it was so childish for me. If you ask that, why is it that it's in the public? The president is saying, IG, what have you been doing? I've not seen any arrest. That should have been the normal thing that should be coming underground, not that what we we'll see. So, but let's see the end to the prosecution. We hope the wrong person will not be prosecuted in Nigeria. We want to see them, give them a fair trial, not assuming that they are actually the one involved.
Well, Doctor, I must thank you. It looks as though we've come to the end of our conversations as it concerns prominent issues in the news, but we appreciate your objectivity to discussing these issues, and we hope that going into the next few days, we'll also be looking at some of the outcomes of this summons, the arrest, and how they impact on the quality of life of Nigerians.
Right.
Well, Dr. Aliyu Ilias sharing his thoughts with us on the program this morning. There's still more to come on the program, because as we build up towards the 2027 general elections, there are loads of speculations. The presidency has issued a number of reports dispelling an alleged breakdown in working relationship between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his vice, Senator Kashim Shettima. Now, it has also come to the notice of the Deputy Senate President, Senator Barau, who has also made it public that he should not be tied to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's running mate's tickets for the 2027 election. But all this would make for good conversation as we look at the statements from the key actors involved in the much ambiguous position of the APC ahead of the 2027 elections on its joint ticket as they look for a re-election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has received the most endorsements without mention of his vice. Stay with us.